first, the first again. This is all I pray, over everything I ask, that my friends one day come back. Can you help with that? Gotta know you can, 'cause the fire won't mean nothing if it ends right here with me. You are more than that. The river runs fast, but you wait at the banks and pull us like driftwood from the wild. So set me on fire like I've never known. I wanna love you more as life goes on. So all of my days I'll place my first love first again. Once I was drifting, but you called me home. So I'll give my life for the one still lost, and I'll see my friends reclaim their first love first again. So set me on fire like I've never known. I wanna love you more as life goes on, and all of my days I'll place my first love first again. Once I was drifting, but you called me home. So I'll give my life for the one still lost, and I'll see my friends reclaim their first love first again. You'll see this world return, and your first love you first. I walked the world afar, built up 1,000 walls to try and hide away. I searched to find my soul, a journey far from home, lost in the life I'd made. And I'd been running circles, living for the moment. I know I ran so far, was acting kinda crazy, coming up with empty. Felt like I lost my heart. Now I found a love that is clearer than the deep blue skies. It's true, you were right there. I can see it in the days gone by. I see you in the days gone by. tried to give up. Still you caught me when I fell from high. I see you in the days gone by. You took my fragile fate and didn't hesitate. Your love in every scar. Passion with no restraint held back the darkest days. So now my life is yours. You've got me when I'm broken. You're with me when I'm hopeless. I know you're never far. Your mercy has no end and it perseveres unfailing. You'll always have my heart. Now I found a love that is clearer than the deep blue skies. It's true, you were right there. I can see it in the days gone by. I see you in the days gone by. Sometimes I tried to give up. Still you caught me when I fell from high. I see you in the days gone by. See you in the days gone by. See you in the days gone by. And I need you every day, 'cause I see you in the days gone by. Your promise never left my side. I know sometimes I tried to give up. Still you caught me when I fell from high. I see you in the days gone by. The deepest the seas and furthest horizons. Can't even begin to speak of your kindness.
You were on, right? Hey, good afternoon. Glad you're tuned in on Facebook or the radio. If you want to call in, you can. This is a call-in radio show, and we'd love to hear from you guys. Our phone number, if you want to call, is 541-846-8280. 846-8280. If you are on Facebook and you want to make a comment, you can just do that, and we should be able to get your information right there. Super good weekend. It was a reminder to me of why I love Southern Oregon, why I love Grants Pass, why I love this community. Maybe you're not involved at all in 4-H, but I've been involved in 4-H for about the last 6 years or so. This year, there was a lot of worry because of COVID-19, and the auction is the time. People come together, and the pressure of an auction, right? What's another quarter? What's another 50 cents? What's another buck? And so it makes money for these kids. So the kids that are in it were told this year, like, listen, don't expect to make money this year. This is a year you're just gonna sell your pig or your steer or whatever it is, and we're gonna get this thing, and maybe it'll be online. There was all kinds of questions. Then Lawless Roofing said, hey, we have this facility that we can kind of do whatever we want. We're not the fair, we have a lot more freedom without liability. So why don't we do the auction there? It can be a live auction. Okay, so Lawless, generous, gives up their spot. Dave Daniels, the sheriff, goes out there, gives the opening statement, great opening statement. And then the bids begin. And usually, I've been there. You get good money for the first 2 or 3 pigs, and it kind of dips, and it's up and down. You're buying the kid, you're not buying the pig, right? So depending on how the kid did, you get $9 you're awesome. Like, wow, you got $8. That's incredible. This year it was phenomenal. Like the kids that would get $5, they were getting $15, $16 a pound. Kids that maybe they only got 8, the bid only hit 8, then you'd have just people in the audience say, add $500 to that kid, add $1,000 to that kid. So in the end, like I think the average for pig was like $12, $13 a pound. Unheard of, like outrageous unheard of. A steer, the winning steer, $46,000 for a steer. I mean, just whoa. So it was people realizing this time kids have had isolation and school canceled and they're not having school and sports. And there's been a lot of disappointment for our kids. And it was like the community of Grants Pass said, we're not going to do it one more time to them. We're not going to disappoint kids again. We're going to come out and we're going to bless them. And they did that. And it makes me super proud to belong to this community.
Oh, that's just phenomenal. The girl that got the $46,000, she was at middle school summer camp. Her personality alone, I'm not surprised. She's a phenomenal kid. I was like, talking to her, I'm like, you should run for president one of these days, or something, But super cool. If you were involved in that, give us a call and maybe share your experience. 846-8280. We're missing Chad today. I know he was big into 4-H, and I know he had a lot of connections to that world. You did for a while. It seems to me like a lot of the kids that used to do it are now all of a sudden like, hey, wait a second.
$16 a pound? I want to get back into that thing.
Maybe I should do that. Colton Dietz and Aiden Dietz did really well. I was talking with them this weekend. And yeah, you're right. Like with all the negative things we've been hearing about people and division and just things that we're supposed to be mad about, it was really cool to have a story like this where we can be happy and proud of our community.
Yeah.
So
The feel-good moment for sure.
totally. So cool.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it was Fields that, or it was Lawless.
I think it was
you said
Lawless Roofing.
Lawless Roofing. Okay.
Yeah, they had this just amazing facility that they said, come use it.
That's so cool.
I believe it's Lawless.
That is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
just the generous people of Southern Oregon.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So big news for the church kind of realm. Jerry Falwell Jr. Resigned from Liberty University. And it's something that if you were watching, it's like he was being chased because there was like picture after picture after picture of him like dancing at a club in Miami. You're like, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah, a month ago he had the questionable Instagram post where he had like his belly hanging out next to a pregnant lady, and I think he was kind of making fun of himself, like packing on some extra weight, but it was not in good taste.
It seemed inappropriate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the latest.
Yeah, you have Liberty University, which is it's I think a 60,000 person campus. It's the largest Christian university. Yeah.
And he's leading it.
And he's leading it, led because his dad founded it. Mm-hmm. You've got to wonder about that nepotism where it's maybe the best thing in the world is not to pass things on to your kids, but to find somebody who loves Christian education and is an educator themselves and wants to see that institution do what its original vision was to do. So you've got to be very careful of nepotism, right? You've got the Bible is full of really good dads, not such good sons.
Yeah.
Samuel with his boys, Eli with his boys, like, be really careful. And then you got really bad dad, Saul, with a phenomenal son, Jonathan. You're like, what?
Yeah,
how'd that happen?
I read a great quote from Phil Vischer. Christian colleges, ministries, and churches aren't family businesses to be passed down through generations like convenience stores and muffler shops. Boards need to remember the story of Samuel and his sons. Spiritual maturity isn't an inherited trait.
Yeah.
It seems very applicable to this situation.
Totally.
So what is the Christian's response?
Yeah.
Matt, you know, like
Yeah.
the whole Christian community.
Yeah. I think we have to always say, this is sin. What you guys engage in is sin. And David engaged in sin, and the prophet Nathan comes to him and confronts him in 2 Samuel 12, which to me is just a great example of how do you walk this stuff out. And David says, you're right, I blew it. Nathan says, you're forgiven. However, the enemies of the Lord can blaspheme his name now. And to me, that's the saddest part, because
Yeah.
now it's the Twitterverse is going crazy. Yeah, Christians, look
Yeah.
how much hypocrites.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, man,
Bad witness.
totally a bad witness. And so we have to come out strongly and say, yeah, that is wrong. What happened there? No one should be doing that,
Yeah.
that names the name of Jesus. So it's wrong.
Can't excuse it. Can't sweep
Can't
it under the
excuse
rug.
it
Can't
fully.
ignore it. Address
Fully.
it. Yeah.
But I think on the other side, you have to make sure that you're the kind of person that you would want if you fell. And so we're not gleeful. We're broken, and we're prayerful, and we want forgiveness, and we want grace, and we want humility. And Galatians 6, 1 and 2. If you see this happen, James chapter 5, verses 18 through 20. We want to be the kind of people that are there to restore and to help. And when all the world is running away from somebody, the church should be the ones that run to them and say, yeah, actually, this is where the body of Christ works.
I love seeing the people that are always looking for a path back to righteousness. Let's get you back.
Yes.
Let's get you back here.
Get you
You're
reconciled
redeemable. Yeah.
fully.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a comment. Shout out to Jen McGowan. So I know her. She is an amazing. It's her daughter that actually had the steer. So she stepped up, put the auction together. So yes, thank you, Jen. You're awesome. Yeah. So with Jerry Falwell, I want to be the kind of person that I would want if I fell. So yeah, and that's with anybody, and we all are going to face those situations.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another big thing in the world of Christianity, Lecrae, probably the biggest Christian rapper ever, really, or
Kanye.
Yeah, right. He's been passed up by Kanye. That's right. Yeah, with a little asterisk.
Yeah, with an asterisk.
Yeah. But Lecrae, since day one, has been a Christian rapper.
Yeah.
And he was asked the hypothetical question, if your son was gay, came out and told you
Yeah.
that he was gay, what would be your response? Again, Lecrae's son is not. He's not. Don't want people to misunderstand that. But he was asked that in an interview. And apparently his brother
is gay.
Is gay? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think that's where I was coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so his response, you want to touch on his response?
Yeah.
And then how difficult really that is.
It's super difficult. So if you don't know Lecrae, like in the 2000s, he was part of that young, restless, reformed, very like, this is our doctrine, very hard on sin, very hard on you repent. And he's shifting. I've appreciated him. So this was how the question was framed to him. And it was like, your son comes to you, he's a grown man now, and he comes and he says, hey, Dad, this is my husband. We're engaged. We're gonna get married next month, and I want you to be in the wedding. What would you say? Woo!
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So his answer was this, quote, my brother's gay. I don't condemn him. I don't look down on him for being attracted to the same sex, said Lecrae. If anything, we'll dialogue so that I can have a better understanding, because I don't profess to be like, quote, I've got this all figured out, and I know the way that this should be, end quote. Not his young, restless, reformed answer that he would have
Yeah.
given in the 2005, 2006 time. So, softened, doesn't say much there. I do notice he says attraction there. I personally believe the Bible does not condemn same-sex attraction. It condemns consistently same-sex activity. So to be attracted to something is not a sin. It's how you shepherd that attraction. And we're all to shepherd our attractions godly, no matter what they are. And we have to be very careful as Christians that we don't make same-sex attraction worse, right?
Yeah.
The Bible groups them together. It's the word porneia. And underneath porneia is fornication, adultery, homosexuality, pornography,
Yeah.
all of them together. And so we can tend to make one worse. And the Bible doesn't. It just says there's sexual sin. This son obviously has acted on it. So for me, if I try to put myself in that situation, which is so hard, I want to be clear on my stance.
Yeah.
But I also want to love my son.
Yeah.
And how an individual walks that out is going to be really prayerful and really important. And I have a resource that, and I get this question frequently. It's why we're talking about it this morning or this afternoon. I always recommend people read this book. It's by Preston Sprinkle, and it's called A People to Be Loved. And it's a phenomenal resource because he does a theological study on the 6 very important texts in the Bible on homosexuality. And then he goes pastoral. And his pastoral sense is one of the best that I've read. It's so, it's velvet steel.
Yeah.
Kind,
Yeah.
but also, hey, unbending. But it's really, really, it's a great resource. And so people that read that, I haven't had one of them come back to me and say, well, I need more help. They're like, that did it.
Yeah.
That was so helpful.
I think Chad had a chance to go see him a couple years ago.
He did,
speak
up in
somewhere.
Salem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said it was phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a great resource.
And I love there's Christians actually exploring that, you know.
Yeah.
What does the Bible say? How do we have this conversation? Even Lecrae's word of dialogue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
And he carefully says attraction, not activity.
yeah.
So I think he understands those things too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The Christian world's alive this week.
Yeah. Big
Big
story.
news stuff.
Exactly. And then another story you were sharing, our study you were sharing with some of us in the pastor's office earlier was about the mental illness thing you were
Yeah.
reading about. That was
I
fascinating.
found this it's in Forbes. You can find it if you want. But Forbes is saying that there's new research, and the research is saying this about mental illness. So we have treated mental illness for the last 50 years or so, 60 years, as an imbalance in the brain. So let's find some chemicals that balance your brain better, right? Serotonin uptake inhibitors, whatever it is, right? So there's this whole category of pharmaceutical drugs that help people with mental illnesses. Well, this new study says that, and I'll quote, they say, quote, anxiety, depression, and PTSD may be adaptive responses to adversity. So we all have these defense mechanisms built into us, God-given, that help us when we have something bad happen. So your brain goes into flight or fight, right?
Yeah.
Well, they say, and there's neuroscientists that have mapped those 3 in particular, anxiety, depression, and PTSD. They've mapped them to our threat detection system in your brain. So their source is right there. It's coming from that source. So what they say is probably not inherited as much as we have believed. Probably not maybe necessarily a long time ago that's causing them. But maybe these 3 in particular are being triggered by something in your pretty recent, and the key is figuring out what that is.
Yeah.
And trying to deal with it. So this is what they say. This is Kristen Simi. She's a PhD lady. So the solution is not necessarily fixing a dysfunction in the person's brain, but fixing dysfunctions in the social world, which I found fascinating. So it's not inside of you, it's really what's outside of you. Environmental.
Yeah.
And the fixes are find someone to serve.
Wow.
Maybe give. Maybe develop a relationship with somebody. Maybe volunteer. Maybe get into community. I'm like, oh my goodness. They're saying these might be better solutions than the psychotropic ways that we've been taking, that it's serve, it's give, it's live, it's get out of yourself, it's go, it's change the society around you. And that's the better solution. I'm like, man, that's music to my ears.
Not a drug, but maybe
Yeah,
community.
this other stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. And their reasoning behind even the study was, look, we have all these drugs, and the levels of depression and anxiety and PTSD are skyrocketing. Shouldn't they be going down?
Yeah.
If it is a chemical imbalance in the brain and we've got people on these things, we should see just these flattening of these, but we're not. It just keeps going up and up and
Yeah.
up. Why? Well, I think we live in a very highly aggravating world right now to mental illness.
Yeah.
Whether it's the protests or the stress of stuff right now,
Quarantining,
it's
yeah.
the world around us.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe we need to look at not trying to solve chemicals up here, but really being something that we're supposed to be in this world right now.
Yeah.
So very, very encouraging to me.
UPS shooter.
Yeah.
Is that like a
Full of-
stressor, an environmental stressor?
Yeah.
What's interesting is it sounds like it's, I was thinking you were going down the path of like the ACEs and stuff, you know, things that have been passed on trauma as
Yeah.
a child, but you said it's more immediate.
Recent. Yeah. You look for a recent trigger
Yeah.
that set your anxiety off, that set your
Interesting.
depression off, that set your PTSD off.
Yeah.
And then you find ways of mediating that, but also ways of living a holistic kind of life. Your social interactions need to be such that they keep you from the, oh no, I'm freaking out. And
Yeah.
community does that, serving does that, giving does that. There's all these ways that make a better world
Yeah.
for you to live in.
Yeah.
And all of them are like, that's gospel talk. man.
Yeah.
That's what Jesus said.
Totally.
It's better to give than to receive. Ah, why? Because he knows the brain.
How many times, like pastorally, have we tried to work through some things with somebody, and you find like they start to have some success, and like without fail, you can go back to a healthy relationship.
Yes.
They got connected to somebody.
Oh,
they,
my
they got a good
goodness.
friend.
Fully.
They worked out some things. They got connected to church, body, or whatever. But
Yes.
they just had some healthy relationships. You
Yep.
know, so important, especially for young people.
Totally.
So
Yeah. And you're a school guy.
yeah.
So there's big school story.
Yeah. Rutherford, is it Rutherford County in
Yeah.
Tennessee?
Yeah.
They were having parents sign a waiver that said that they would not watch what their kids were watching online as the class was going, because all of the distance learning and
Trigger.
stuff. Yeah. Wait a second.
What? What am I not allowed to do here with my kid?
Yeah, and it sounds like the school district has backtracked a lot on that.
Yeah.
But they tried to say, well, and I don't know, maybe this is true. They didn't want things from other kids being released out
Yeah.
public and everything, which is too late. It's already out there.
Yeah.
It's on the internet. Kids
Fully.
talk, you know. I haven't, as a school teacher, I haven't found that to be, most teachers I know, like, welcome, you know, come on in, see what we're doing, we invite you in. But what is interesting is most teachers would say, like, the success for a student not only depends on the teacher, but the parent involvement at
Fully.
home. So
Totally.
this would contradict that, to say, I don't want you to see what's going
Yeah.
on, you know. But it just reiterates how important it is. And we have a great opportunity.
Like going
right now.
ahead right now with this crazy
Yeah.
world school year, like parents,
Yeah.
you have to be involved, which might be
Totally.
the best thing in the world for a bunch of kids.
Finally, you know,
Yeah.
you have to. Like, you can't just ship them out the door. You actually
You
have
can't
to be involved.
outsource your kids' education. You have to be involved. I know it's tough. I don't like doing math at 7:30 at night either.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'll do it. All right, let's sit down. Let's do math.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we actually, you know, talk about environment and all that stuff. We actually just took the kids' rooms and we're like, okay, desk, quiet spot, close the door, clear out the distractions. So we obviously will monitor everything very closely, but we had to set it all up this weekend because school starts in a couple weeks
Yeah.
and it's all online, you know.
Yeah.
So great opportunity for parents, be involved, see what's going on, help your kids right now. We're looking at it as a healthy opportunity.
Yeah.
Not
That's the way you
complaining,
have to.
not griping about it.
You
know,
have to do that in life.
we're just like, hey, this is
Okay.
what it is.
It's
you
either
know?
an obstacle or an opportunity. It's your perspective.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Is this going to be an obstacle that I can't get past, or is this an opportunity that I climb up and get higher? No,
Yeah.
I'm going to climb up the obstacle and make it an opportunity.
Totally.
I would warn, there's this thing called pornography,
Yeah.
and it is everywhere.
Yep.
And we have a real enemy. So you can Google safe home internet settings. I have my router set at my house. It doesn't matter who comes there, what computer's turned on, what laptop is turned on, what phone is turned on, if it's on my Wi-Fi network, that safe home thing does not allow. The router itself is hooked to a whatever it is, it's the IP address, and that IP address doesn't let porn through. So it's the best that I found. And you can get information on that. You could ask and we can send it to you. You got to be a little technical, but not too technical to walk through. They give pretty good directions, but that's what we've done because we know, that we got a really, really, really powerful enemy that wants to use that.
And my experience talking with young men who have struggled with this, they would invite accountability, almost 100% across the board. The
Yeah.
thing that they really welcome, which they wouldn't say probably, is that if there was some accountability, if there were some obstacles,
Yeah.
One of our high school leaders was talking about his college roommate. He said he went home and took the door off of his room
Yes.
so he couldn't be
Love
by
it.
himself.
Yeah.
So have those conversations with your kids.
And our internet sometimes is slow and does funky things. And I'm like, I could care less.
Yeah.
My kids will complain. I don't care.
Yeah.
I do not care. You are never, okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's
Too
either
bad.
that or it's totally off. You take the choice.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
this is that big of an enemy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking, can we post the stuff? Oh, it looks like other people are responding with some of the safe home is what you said.
I think it's called Safe Home Internet Settings. Man,
We can post it.
we'll post
afterwards.
it. We'll
Yeah.
post something. I'll send the information to Jordan, and she'll get a link to where you can go and find it.
Yeah.
It's good information, and I think, if there was a room in everybody's house that had every Penthouse or Playboy magazine in it, man, you do everything in the world to board that thing up and screw it shut, and you couldn't get, that room was everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, we have that room now. Mm-hmm.
The technology's there.
it's just a click away now.
Yeah.
So scary to
Yeah.
me. So be sober, be vigilant, because you have an enemy who is a roaring lion seeking who he may devour.
Yeah.
He's not waiting. He's out in front of this thing right now.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay, last one. Last topic for the day. I've been wanting to ask you this. George Washington said the death of our republic would be a two-party political system. Our country's maybe never been more divided. Last week was the Democratic National Convention. The Republican National Convention kicked off last night. As believers, I'd love it if we could strip away the partisanship or the intersectionality that gets talked a lot about, and just say, what are the qualities of a good leader, a politician who I could say, they check the most boxes
Yeah.
for me. And as the pastor and shepherd of our church, and with, with your insight, what would you say to people that are listening or watching are things that, again, take away the political division and just look for these qualities or traits in a leader?
Yeah. Obviously, Jesus,
Yeah.
greatest leader that there is, and you can learn tons from him. Served, gave, all those things. And so, for me, what I always do in my head is I just remember people, because I can remember people a lot better. So I look for Jesus kind of leaders that are serving and giving. I look at Abraham Lincoln. They called him Velvet Steel. It meant this, that if you were around him, he was velvet. He was kind. He was considerate. But on his convictions, steel. You would not move him. And I want people like that, that their convictions are core convictions. They're coming from somewhere deeper than the latest poll.
Yeah.
So they're not whipping all over.
People don't realize he had enemies on both sides of the aisle.
Oh, totally.
And, I mean, we paint this picture, but he actually had some enemies.
Yeah.
But he was firm in his convictions.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep. And when the nation needed it, just firm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think about Winston Churchill and how he went through hard times. Just stiff upper lip, man. His radio addresses. You want to read, or you could listen to him as well, but just read his radio addresses. How he led people through the Blitzkrieg when 1,500 planes would be bombing London into the ground, and his encouragement and his, hey, hard is not bad. It's okay. I think about Dave Corson, more personal. I lived with him for a year, not quite a year, 10 months in Vanuatu, or 9.5 months, something in there. My wife always, she knows exactly what it is because I was not there. But just how he was like a golden retriever, but just a great leader. It was always, he was the man that modeled to me. You can look at things as an opportunity or an obstacle. He never said that, but he modeled it.
Yeah.
Like when we got bad news, he would always be like, what can we do? And that's bad news. We would have liked it, but what can we do? And I love that. Just men who are hey, they have this positive, opportunistic, hey, this is the way it is, right?
Yeah.
I look for people that are not victims.
Yeah.
They're not always, when something happens, they're not finding somebody to blame.
Yeah.
Someone that says, the buck stops with me, actually.
Yeah.
And sure, other people may have contributed to this, but I'm the leader, and I'm going to own this thing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to play the victim mentality. I'm not going to blame other people. It stops with me, and I'll solve it as well. So those are just top of my head,
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
Those are the people I look for.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you?
I'd have to agree. Yeah. I mean, without going too much into it, but yeah, servant, humility, humility, please. I guess you have to have a certain. If you want to be president, there's a little bit of an egomaniac in you.
Yeah.
I understand. That probably comes with the territory. But humility, I remember I know George W. Bush took a lot of heat for some things. But I remember going and listening to him speak in Central Point.
So did I.
Did you? You were there? Yeah. And it was a weird time. It was after September 11th and all that stuff, And but I sensed like a humility,
a genuineness to him.
Yeah, I really liked that.
He wasn't playing a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked him too.
Yeah.
Yeah. In my lifetime, Ronald Reagan, but I was too young for him. George Bush, to me, I'm like, I like that guy.
Yeah.
Just genuine liked him.
He wasn't
didn't
perfect.
make the best policies, but he seemed humble. He seemed kind. He seemed
a little affable, like he could kind of laugh at himself. A little bit,
Didn't take himself too seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Good qualities.
Well, if only we had that candidate that you just described.
Yes, if only. Yeah.
Somewhere out there.
Yep.
So, all right.
Yep. Well, thank you guys. God bless you. Have a great week.